Rob, I've heard you talk about pursuing relevance. What does this mean, and how did Erickson or you do this? Okay. Those of you working professionally with clients or patients, you'll know that when you're asking your client or patient for information, you're asking questions, there's often going to be a lot of content being shared with you. And sometimes there's so much content that you get lost in it, because it's like you can no longer stand back and be objective because you get sucked into their content. Maybe because there's just too much, or maybe because you're relating to it in terms of your own life experience. We don't want to have that situation because we get lost. We end up becoming as confused as our clients sometimes. So we need to have a kind of a filter that filters out the stuff that's not useful. And so pursuing relevance is about pursuing the information that's relevant to you being able to help them. So it's not so much relevant to the client in terms of how it's relevant to how they perceive themselves or relevant to the problem as such. Well, I'm talking about relevance in terms of how relevant is this for me in this particular position as a hypnotherapist, psychotherapist, or whatever, to be able to help this client. Now, you're paying attention to how relevant it is to them as well, because, you know, sometimes you'll then see if they go off at a tangent with some irrelevances, but they really go into it heavily and they really believe it, that itself can be a block to the therapy. You can see how basically they're creating a fantasy world about the cause of their problem or whatever, and that's going to get in the way. It's going to be an enormous yes but coming at you when you start to work therapeutically from them. So you pay attention to that as well, and you may actually play down their responses when it's just too irrelevant. You know, the way you do that, of course, is to not acknowledge it. So, you know, if you're going yes, 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 every time somebody says something positive or negative, right or wrong, relevant or irrelevant, then you're not communicating effectively other than you're listening. But if you acknowledge with a head nod, for example, the relevant part of what they're sharing, and then ignore, in terms of you don't acknowledge at all, the irrelevant, what they experience is their brain starts to change and start giving you more relevant stuff, because they're getting acknowledgement and approval for the stuff that is useful. So you don't actually have to say to them, hang on a minute, this is all bullshit. No, you can actually tell them that with the head nods or non-head nods as well. If they go too far and they don't pick up on your non-verbals, you can actually say, excuse me, could you explain, how do you think this is relevant to your problem? Because sometimes they do go way, way out off a tangent, and it's just wasting time. So how's this relevant, you think, to your problem? So there are challenges you can use, gentle challenges, of course. No, that's interesting. Yeah, you could be right, but we don't know yet, do we? Okay, so again, you put it to one side. You're just shelving it for a while. So we can only do good work with good material, as I've said. So this is what pursuing relevance is all about. Okay. Rob, thank you for that question. It's an important question, because without that, you know, we end up just in quicksand, you know, not knowing what to do.